The day has come, bitch. El Camino tells the story of Jesse Pinkman on the run from the law following the events of Breaking Bad, trying to find salvation. Well, it is finally here, everybody. El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, the epilogue, the follow-up to my favorite television series of all time. If you've been following along with me, I've been reviewing Breaking Bad every single day this week, for the most part, leading up to the review of this film. Season 5 is actually uploading right now. Finally got to check out this movie, dying of anticipation all day long, trying to get out of work, trying to get season 5 shot, filmed, edited, and then pop it on, and I'm highly satisfied with what we got in El Camino. This is essentially, like I've already said, just an epilogue to the finale of the series. This is just 2 hours spent with Jesse Pinkman trying to explore what happened to him after he charged out of that neo-Nazi camp in the El Camino through that gate and went on to whatever fate met him. That was a satisfying enough ending for me as a fan of the show. There was a point in time whenever I was very, very adamant that do not follow up Breaking Bad with anything. Do not come up with another season. Do not say any bullshit like Walter White's actually still alive. Don't give us another, you know, a movie or a book. Don't follow it up at all. Just leave it exactly where it is. Yes, some questions are left ambiguous, but I like that to a certain degree as long as it's done well. And anything that was left ambiguous, which is very little, at the end of Breaking Bad, most prominently being the fate of Jesse Pinkman, I was satisfied enough with being able to come up with my own answers to those questions. But, you know, you give 5 or 6 years after that, the fact that I had to kind of look at this whenever they announced it, said we're doing a Breaking Bad movie, it's going to talk about Jesse Pinkman, what happened to him. Initially, I was kind of like, oh man, that's a risk. But then I realized how much I trust Vince Gilligan. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Better Call Saul could have been a disaster. A showrunner going and dipping his pen right back into that Breaking Bad ink and trying to tell more stories in that universe, and Better Call Saul is amazing. So the fact that he nailed Breaking Bad start to finish, the fact that Better Call Saul was such a success, I looked at it and said, you know what? I trust you, Vince. If you think that there is still story to tell with Jesse Pinkman, I am more than willing to give you the benefit of the doubt because you have earned it. So getting right into the positives of El Camino, first and foremost, I gotta say that this movie does merit its own existence. This epilogue, this extra little bit of story, this swan song for Jesse Pinkman totally is worth watching if you are a fan of Breaking Bad. There's nothing in this whatsoever that takes away from the ending of Breaking Bad. There's a few things in here that actually add to it. There's a lot of fan service. That's another huge positive. If you were a fan of this show and you're a fanatic like me and you've rewatched it time and time again, there's a lot of major things and a lot of small subtle things, even just in the background, just like a little shirt that's left out or something that will make you smile ear to ear because there's so much attention to detail by this showrunner to bring all of that fan service into this, to where this was made for Breaking Bad fans. This was made with the intention of everybody that's stuck with us for 5 seasons and loves this show and continues to celebrate it and just give praise to this show. This is for you. This is a love letter and a gift to you. And the show, or this movie, is a complete success in that regard. Aaron Paul, great as always. There's obviously not as much emotional, like huge high points in this movie like there were in the final season of Breaking Bad, nor should you expect it to be. So don't go into this thinking that Aaron Paul is going to give like this huge best of all time Jesse Pinkman performance. He's phenomenal as the character. He hasn't missed a beat in all of these years, and he just slips right back into that beanie of Jesse Pinkman. But this movie is more so about kind of like him settling everything and him kind of going towards his salvation, and everything that you would require of the character in that journey, Aaron Paul brings it. There's a few moments of humor, there's a few moments of badass, there is some emotion here and there, especially with him kind of escaping in the initial aftermath of the series finale, but he's very good at bringing this character to life once again. Also got to give huge props to all the performances and all the choices of inclusion of these side characters like Skinny Pete and Badger, 2 very small characters, kind of inconsequential characters to a certain degree in the grand scheme of Breaking Bad, but so important to that show and so important to Jesse's whole tone and his life. And the fact that they brought them over into this movie is great. For the section of the movie that they are in, it's just, you just grin the entire time if you're a fan of this show. It's like the boys are back in town. They're great, both Skinny Pete and Badger, in delivering those characters once again. Just like Jesse, or Aaron Paul slips right back into the shoes of those characters. And there's even some characters that I'm not going to name. I'm going to do a spoiler review for this. There's some characters that come back that are from other seasons of Breaking Bad in certain aspects that, again, are just huge fan service and really welcome additions to this little epilogue story that Jesse Pinkman has taken us on. As far as directing, Vince Gilligan knocks it out of the park. There's so many things in this movie that just feel classic Breaking Bad, like certain shots, the way that he moves the camera. There's a really cool overhead shot in one spot where Jesse's searching this apartment for something, and it shows like all these little sections of the apartment, almost like a rat in a maze. That's a really creative shot. There's things like that classic thing that Breaking Bad always did where the sky moves really quickly to show passage of time. A lot of those really key technical aspect little nods to the show make it into this. And Vince Gilligan has always been a great director. I'm pretty sure he directed Felina. There's a couple other episodes inside of the show that he has directed. And he just knows this world better than anybody else. I mean, that goes without saying. So the fact that he comes over, directs this full feature film, brings this close to his character the way that he wants to, in the style that he wants to, loved it. I also really appreciated how they kept the story and the stakes of El Camino very small scale. Like, that's something that's very important to something like this. An epilogue should never do anything to overshadow the actual climax of the story. And they don't even bother trying to do anything that's going to try to make Felina look like, you know, the calm before the storm that was El Camino. Things are very small scale in this. Things are very scaled back. Things are very kind of ground level, street level with the story that they are going for. And it's a very simple storyline. Like I've said numerous times, it's just about Jesse Pinkman trying to get from the events of the Felina finale to his own salvation in whatever way that he can. Hits a lot of speed bumps along the way, but this small scale version of storytelling in this was a nice relief for me. I was worried that they were going to try to do these big, like, huge, epic sequences with Jesse Pinkman that to me was going to overshadow the way that everything wrapped up in Felina. And my final positive, which kind of goes with fan service, but it's much more a testament to the writing and the storytelling of Vince Gilligan. There's aspects of this story, predominantly in flashback form, that kind of fill in some missing pieces from the overall storyline of Breaking Bad. They might not feel like missing pieces, but the way that they're integrated into El Camino, they certainly kind of connect a couple of dots that maybe weren't connected in that series. And I like the fact that they were able to insert new storyline like that, have it fit right into the timeline of Breaking Bad, and fanatics and like me will immediately see a scene and know right what episode that took place after. And the fact that they're able to do that and not take anything away from the show. It's always a risk when you try to add things later on that maybe it won't add up right, or maybe it'll feel superfluous, or maybe it'll feel tacked on. And I'm very pleased to say that nothing in this that is a callback or an inserted storyline that was missing from those 5 seasons takes anything away from the show. In fact, just like this movie, it adds to it. Now moving on to my mixed aspects, and I just have one, and this is the definition of mixed, because it's something that I like in one aspect, but also at the same time I have a small issue with it. You guys have heard me talk about prequels ad nauseum. Anytime I have to review one, I always say the same thing. I don't really care for the setup of prequels in a sense of answering questions that I wasn't necessarily looking for answers to, or answering questions that I was much more satisfied answering myself. And even though this is not a prequel, it is an epilogue and kind of has the same battle to where it's going to answer questions left by the finale of Breaking Bad that, like I've already kind of alluded to earlier, I necessarily didn't need answers given to me. I was perfectly satisfied with seeing Jesse charge through that gate in the El Camino and coming up with my own version of his fate. And while I'm very satisfied with the answers that we get here, while there's not a single answer that they give that I came up with a better one, or I disliked, or wasn't quite, appreciative of them giving that answer, there's still that small aspect of me that was satisfied enough with the finale to where, in a very small scale sense of the word, this does feel a little unnecessary. I'm glad it exists. I love the fact that it exists, and I will rewatch this every single time that I rewatch Breaking Bad now, which I'll probably be rewatching for the rest of my fucking life. But there is a small piece of me that does look at this and say, I love it, didn't need it. And now my one negative with El Camino, which I need to state clearly is not a negative for me. It's going to be just a negative that's going to come along with the package that is El Camino. This is a movie that is only relevant for Breaking Bad fans. When you watch this, and I was trying to look at it in both eyes so that I could review it properly, I cannot see a single person watching this that is not overly familiar with Breaking Bad, or maybe didn't finish the series, or just has no knowledge of Breaking Bad whatsoever, that is going to have any kind of emotion or any kind of enjoyment of this story whatsoever. It's gonna feel like, what is going on here? Which I get, that's what this movie is. So, you know, on one side of the argument, if you don't watch Breaking Bad, why are you watching this movie in the first place? But when you come out with a film and you release it on something like Netflix that everybody has for the most part, there are going to be certain people that are going to watch this not realizing what it is, or, you know, not knowing fully what they should know going into this, that this movie is going to serve absolutely zero for them. So just a negative that's going to be tacked onto this movie, where people are not going to be able to watch it and appreciate any of it unless they have watched all 5 seasons of Breaking Bad. But like I said, not a negative for me, because I've watched those seasons over and over and over again, so I ate this shit up beginning to end. Overall, guys, very pleased with El Camino. I'm glad that it does not take anything away from the show. Vince Gilligan just proves that he is the fucking man when it comes to this universe, and I actually am looking forward to seeing him do things outside of the Breaking Bad universe once Better Call Saul wraps up. I'd like to see his talents kind of get used in other aspects and see what all this guy has. But as far as delivering Breaking Bad stuff, he has not missed a beat. Didn't miss a beat the entire series, hasn't missed a beat in Better Call Saul thus far, and did not miss a beat with El Camino. Aaron Paul, brilliant as always as Jesse Pinkman. Love all the callbacks, all the fan service, all the returning characters, and very satisfied with where they leave this character off in his swan song. Yes, slightly unnecessary, didn't necessarily need this. My life would have went just fine if I did not ever have El Camino, and this is certainly a movie that is only going to appeal to Breaking Bad fans, but I am a Breaking Bad fanatic, so it definitely appeals to me.
You ready? Yeah.
So if you're a fan of the series Breaking Bad and you do want to find out what happened to Aaron Paul and Jesse Pinkman once they charged through that gate in the El Camino, definitely check this thing out online. It's free to watch on Netflix right now, and if you have a really big city, you might be able to see it in theaters this weekend, but hopefully they release a physical copy of this at some point, because you need to go out and buy it. What did you guys think of El Camino? Were you a fan of this? Did it feel superfluous and unnecessary to you? Did it feel a little bit slow and drawn out, kind of keeping with some of the tone of some of the slower episodes of the show and just kind of focusing on Jesse Pinkman's story? Did you miss the big epic Breaking Bad sequences? Or do you feel like this was absolutely perfect as a tacked on epilogue to that brilliant series? Let me know down below all of your thoughts on El Camino, and we will talk about it. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you are not already a subscriber. If you guys want to check out some social media links, check the video description below for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel, help this channel grow, and get cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron. So check all that out, guys. And if you want to check out some more of my videos, including all of my Breaking Bad reviews, you can check those out by clicking right over here.